Thank you. It's working. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming today for the big talk with Roberto Minervini. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to talk mostly about his new film, which is What You're Going to Do When the World's on Fire, which I think many of you saw this morning, and which also shows again here and showed yesterday. And then we'll have time for questions. So we'll talk maybe for like an hour, and then we have half an hour for questions if there are some. But you're free to jump in at any time if something picks up. I mean, this is going to be like a casual event.
Yeah, they
I
can
think.
jump in. And
We have nothing detailed planned. We'll actually have a very detailed plan, but I'm sure we'll deviate from it at every occasion. So just by way of a short introduction about Roberto, he was born in Italy in 1970 and moved to the US in 2000 to New York, and soon after relocated to Houston, which is where he's lived ever since, where he's based now. So I suppose one could call him both European and an American filmmaker at this point, because all the films he's made have been set and shot in America. Although sometimes he's referred to, often actually, as a documentary filmmaker, I think one thing we'll talk about is why he doesn't consider these films to be pure documentaries, or maybe even documentaries at all, even though they're made with non-professional actors and made in a kind of a documentary style with a small crew, shooting long periods, over 100 hours of footage, things like that. So basically, yeah, I mean, I think the thing that one should make a note of in terms of something that connects all of his films is that he deals with the representation of the other, especially in the American South. The first three films of his constitute a trilogy. It's called a Texas trilogy. The Passage, which was made in 2011, Low Tide, 2012, Stop the Pounding Heart in 2013. Then after that, he made a film called The Other Side, which also some of you may have seen. The last two have been released in the Netherlands, I know. And that was filmed in Louisiana, which is where some of this is shot, New Orleans, and also Mississippi. And this film is, in a way, continuation, but in a way, it's also a bit different, I think, from the last films. In that, in terms of dealing with the other, he's dealing with race in a very overt and particular way, which is something which you haven't done before. You're dealing with white America before, white Southern America, and now it's black Southern America. So before we start in particular about this film, I just was wondering if you can get into what brought you to filmmaking, in particular, how Osama bin Laden made you a filmmaker.
true, it did. Because up until Osama came into our lives in America, bringing down the towers, I was an IT consultant all my life, really up to that point, 2011. No, 2001. It's been a while, right? All my life has been focused on trying to make ends meet. So I studied something else. I studied computer programming and then economics. And finally, I became an IT consultant. I was an unhappy one and a somewhat incompetent one too, because I really wanted to do something else. I was looking for self-expression, and then the towers came down, and all of a sudden I got fired. I got laid off together along with another 4,000 colleagues. My clients were in the towers. So some of us ended up, pursuing, that really brought us very close to this kind of transient aspect of not only life in a very, I don't want to be rhetorical here, but really the fact that even a career, how easy it is, since everything is so transient and can be turned to ashes in a second, really, that was a moment to follow passion, really, a career. As cheesy as it sounds, that's really what happened to me. So I got compensated as a victim of September 11, so with that money I could pay for a master in media studies, and that's what I did. And the intention was to pursue academia. So at some point I moved to the Philippines to teach, and after I quit my job in the Philippines, I came back to the U.S., relocated to Texas, and started doing freelance photo projects. And that career as a freelance photographer didn't go anywhere. And really that's how I got to film. As it all started, looking for self-expression. And film was a medium that allowed me to do that. That's really the beginning of everything.
So your goal wasn't to be a filmmaker from an early age or anything like that.
No, actually, uh, my goal isn't to be a filmmaker, really. I mean, if my goal is really continues to be, a goal for self-expression. And I talk about self-expression because I think there's a lot of me in the films. I mean, and we'll talk about it at some point. Uh, Very often I get asked about this process of building intimacy with the characters, which is a focal point of my films, and I try to explain to the best of my ability that it all stems from my intention and need to relate and to express myself even through other people. So in a way, they are the vehicle, these people that I document, that I film, through which I really, express myself. There's something very cathartic about that. So that's why I continue to do what I do. But I never consider, every film I make could be potentially my last film. And right now I'm considering other projects. One has very little to do with film. It's home building. I'm really into building the tiny homes, which are the ones who I'm an eco-friendly builder. That's among other things I do. So I'm really into that, saving space and so yeah. I don't know. No, I never wanted to be a filmmaker. I really wanted, in some way, to be a storyteller and maybe try to really tell my own story through whatever I do.
So you mentioned this intimacy, and like you said, we'll get to it. But you say when you want to be a storyteller, in terms of the subjects of the films that you've made so far, where's the beginning point? Is the beginning point this desire to say something about yourself? Is it to deal with the people that you then work with in the film? Or in the case of this one in particular, is it a thematic beginning? That's why I say maybe it's changed over time in this extent.
Yeah, say something about myself, which, it means, to say something about myself means to relate, to find myself, therefore to relate with people. So in a way, I've always tried not to feel alone, like a little drop in the ocean. So I find ways to relate to people, to be part of a community. So there's a sense of belonging. Finding myself ultimately leads to wanting to belong, okay? So which is a very primordial need. And since my background is that of a working class people in small town Italy, as I started to migrate, because that's really what I did at an early age. After college, I migrated. I left Italy to just find, in search for an occupation. And then every time when I started filming, I try contexts where I can relate. So it is no coincidence that I started working with the underbelly, the underdogs, the ones at the margin, those who don't speak their own language perfectly, because I do come from a region where we are kind of ridiculed for our accent, the Marches region. We are really the kind of the countryside people who don't speak proper Italian. So there is that chip on my shoulder too. There is something. There is all of that. The feeling the underdog, the feeling less than, and I relate with people. Kind of in a way, we join forces. With all the people in my film, we kind of join forces, and put the spotlight on ourselves. So that's why my first film was really about those, people, kind of who were, abandoned their safety or their space and the place and left in search for something, and so the stories continued. Broken families and people who struggle with addiction, and then there's been, of course, as I continue to work with communities, then at some point, of course, my conscience, political conscience, ideological awareness grew. And maybe that's how I got to this new film, which has other components, like the political components or the racism. So again, as I found myself, as I related to characters, then the spectrum broadened, and all of a sudden I felt confident enough to express myself in different ways, politically, ideologically.
With the films in the Texas trilogy, the characters that you film, well, I guess you can call them actors if you want to call them actors. You want to call them actors, or does it matter? Do these categories
Yeah,
matter?
really, yeah, it doesn't matter. We can call them interpreters, actors, people. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's hard to, but I do understand the need for labeling. But at this point, really, I let other people label. Yeah, okay, sure, actors.
Well, I mean, in the end credits of this film, just to jump ahead of ourselves, you give you list the characters in the film and you give them character names, generic character names.
Yeah.
Which is something that with some people complain to me about that. It's like I didn't understand why you did that. I'm curious as to why you did that.
I mean, there's always. First of all, I had to admit, because I'm not going to be here stiff and solemn, speak in a very, pedantic and solemn way. The point is, I also try to have fun with this thing. So I do know that some people can be bothered by the fact that Judy is the woman, and therefore it's a little bit, I add some spice to things so that I don't get too bored with it and I don't take myself too seriously, and so there is that component. Now there is also the other more serious part that is about these people who, who give their life to me, to the camera. So there is observation, so the documentary part of it, and also there's the reinterpretation of their own life. So these people act, and they're representative of a bigger reality. I mean, especially in this film. Judy is the female character of the film, not only of the film, of a community. She's the spokeswoman of a context, of a race, and the same goes for the other characters. So for me, it was appropriate for this film to call Judy the woman, because of her female role, and the kids as kids, and to give a collective name to the Panthers. So for me, it was really appropriate, but I cannot hide the fact that it's also, since it's been very, very frustrating for me throughout my short career to abide by the precepts of this film industry, this art that is so new, so young, the film art, but yet so rigid, so strict. Everything is encapsulated in things. Documentary is one thing, fiction is another one. The ethics that inform everything, although the ethics are extremely subjective, but yet the ethics define everything. And it's been very frustrating. And therefore, I like to bug people a little bit. So I knew that calling those people in a generic way would throw some of the industry players off, and that's okay. That's the starting point. It's like going to the gym, tearing some little muscles so that the muscles go a little stronger, because otherwise this industry can be very flaccid.
All right, maybe for those of you who haven't seen the film, maybe we can take a look at a clip with Judy in it, which is what we have to begin with, which is set in this bar where in the film we see her start the bar, and by the end of the film, she's left the bar, basically. unfortunately, Judy was actually supposed to be here today, but she's sick, so she couldn't make it,
Yeah.
which is a shame. I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to show this one is because I know when you started making this film, the initial concept was to make something that was more about music in New Orleans, but somehow that changed. So, I mean, let's with that, but also maybe how this, in that way, also relates to your previous film, The Other Side, which was made in part with white militias in the same around the same area as a sort of in the last years of Obama, and then we have this film, which is with race in the South in the early years of Trump.
So I've been wanting to make a film like this for a long time. Definitely before I made The Other Side. The Other Side is my previous film released in 2015. So I've been thinking about a film like this for a while, working with black people in America. But I never felt ready to do it until I did it in 2006. I started working on this film in 2016. I guess I never felt ready for several reasons. One is the fact that I was not confident enough as a filmmaker to embrace on a project that was without safety net. What is the safety net? The safety net is what I know best. In that case, is feeling. Being a white guy among white people is one thing. Being a white guy among black people, especially in America, is a different thing. So, for those who have seen The Other Side, the film delivers several punches in the stomach. It's a very in-your-face film. Deals with the ascent of the right-wing militia, the right-wing extremisms in America. And yet I never felt in danger, and danger means simply unsafe or insecure, or unable to bring the project to an end, a successful end, because I was a white guy among white people. Pretty much, that was the bottom line. I never felt, like in the dog-eat-dog America, white dog doesn't eat white dog. So there was a safety net. And the safety net was whiteness. And I realized that not while I was making those films. I realized that when I really wanted to approach this film, that what I was scared of is really losing the safety net and exposing my whiteness, and in the black world, and that is very important. I always talk about safety net and how safe I feel, because that is a strong indicator for me of whether when I gauge the importance of a project. When I start feeling safe, comfortable, then perhaps it's time to challenge myself and move on to another project. And at some point, I decided to, and that's what I'm talking about. Like finally, I was ready. I felt okay. I need to make the leap and go, jump into the unknown and make a project with black people. I wanted to work on music. Music is the carrier of the oral history of black Americans. Music continues to evolve, and white America cannot really grasp on the true meaning of black music. I mean, hip hop is an example. It continues to evolve and change. It makes a fool out of us white people, white Americans. First it was, black America talking about bling and white people not understanding. And then it changed, and it became, it was political, and it was outrageous and all that. So I wanted to work on that, on music. But then as I went there, and I went to New Orleans, I started traveling to New Orleans, and then I found out that people really wanted to do something. That was a fetish that I had. I wanted to express, I wanted to make a film about my music. They just wanted to speak like everybody else. They didn't want to use the tool that they've been using for generations, which is to sing the blues, sing the anger, and they wanted to speak. So the film changed, and they gave me some musical parts, but they also gave me a lot other things. And so this film is the result of me decided to let go control and follow the people, really follow people.
And Judy was one of the people you met early on when you were starting to conceive the film in New Orleans?
Yeah.
And you didn't know her before?
No, Judy Hill, I met her at her bar. Judy Hill, she's the daughter of a very famous, prominent musician in the 50s, Jesse Hill, who made this smash hit, called Upupadu, and Judy had a bar named after the song, and I started hanging out there every Wednesday for beer while she was performing. And but at that time, Judy was really the gateway to a community. She wasn't. I wasn't thinking of making a film with her or about her, but through Judy, I got to meet a lot of people. It took me, a year and a half of hanging out there before I realized that I had a group of people I could work with. And at some point, I told Judy that I wanted her to be a part of it. And what does it mean to have Judy be, what it meant to be Judy, as to Judy to be a part of this project? Really, what it meant is to pass the baton. I wanted to find a person that could lead me through the film. Really, that's what Judy has been. Not only the protagonist of the film, but really the leader of the whole project. I followed Judy. I needed to find, and that's important in every film I made, to find someone who could lead me through the film, to the project. I've never been the one who carried the project, really. I'm always been in the passenger seat. It's very important for me to find the driver of the project, and Judy was in the driver's seat. So I recognized those qualities in her, and I say, you're going to be the driver, and I'll follow you. And that's how it all started, really.
You mentioned that that when you were started off there looking in New Orleans, that you felt that people just wanted to talk, and there's a lot of scenes in the film which are just people talking, which are people in this bar talking, Black Panthers, we'll get into later, talking to each other. And it's a way it seems, first of all, I'm curious, is this bar, is this discursivity in this bar, is it like a typical thing for you that you found in New Orleans, or was every single local bar is a place where people get together? What I'm trying to say is it sort of takes this place of, I don't know, it's like a Greek agora or something where, replaces a democratic, they're lacking a certain democratic representation, so it becomes like a public space where they can air out their frustrations and have political debates.
Yeah, I think there is. I think you're right. I think those are the kind of it reminds me of historically. There've always been those places where they're underground meetings, very democratic, where self-regulated, where communities gather and talk and find strength in each other's words. So everything gets political, whether be so explicit like in some of my other meetings that I filmed, or less overt, just complaining about things or sharing personal stories. I found that a lot. Obviously, getting wasted, alcohol helps a lot, and to get wasted. And I'm not really a heavy drinker, but I realized that as I go in several occasions where I got plastered with them, that I could be a contributor to these debates. So yeah, that's the whole thing. And as I said, not being a drinker, I found that very nice to let loose, and it's really cool to let loose and get really deep rather than to get loose and let really silly. Mm-hmm. So that was this beautiful thing, get really drunk and get really deep, and then sing a song and that gets so intense, and I felt, that's really old school. This is really nostalgic in a way, and so. I should do it more often. Maybe tonight we'll go. Whomever wants to go get drunk. I've been here. I haven't done anything. I just had a beer. Maybe we should get drunk and get really deep and do a New Orleans style. But I think I think it's true. I think it's true that in some of those bars there's this where you can let loose. But let it loose doesn't mean forgetting about things. There's some people who can't forget. Would really need the opposite. So you let loose to get into the core things, and it was really, really powerful.
So besides the bar, there's three other sort of strands in the film, and maybe we can watch the second clip, which features these two kids, Ronaldo and Titus. It's a very short clip, just to give a sense.
You don't know what your race is? Black, white, Latino, Asian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, what? What he was? Black, white, what? He was black, right?
Yeah.
All right. So say black. Just what you don't know. Look, race is what is you black, white? That's what your race is. So he's black. Your color is like if you're light skinned, caramel, chocolate, brown, all that. That's your skin color, but not your race. So you could be light skinned and people still know that you're black. Yeah, people know that you're still black. So whatever color you are doesn't matter. It's what race you are.
Mark, can I jump in?
Yes.
And maybe because I feel okay. So you started saying, that I don't. Sometimes I refuse to define my films documentaries. Again, there is some playfulness in there. Like if you tell me they're not documentaries, I tell you they are, and vice versa, because to shake things up. But I'm not trying to be like again pedantic. But I think this scene exemplifies a little bit what I mean, what I do, in a way. So I would say I employ some sort of controlled observation. And by that I mean that I need to make a film, and I need to make a film with certain parameters that match the aesthetics that I want to achieve. So nothing is completely left to chance. In a scene like this, the kids, I hang out with the kids a long time, and I've noticed in some of the conversations they talk, I know the political awareness, and in this case it was about race, their sense of identity, and even in a childish way, we talk about it. And then at some point, I decided that I want to film that. I want to capture that on camera. So there is no immediacy in the sense that I'm not filming it right away. I need to schedule it. And then I need to gauge, I need to see what the condition, where can even the space. So there is time and there's space. Time, we need to schedule it. This can be an impromptu conversation. Space, those are kids. They couldn't go out. There's 2 rooms in their house, and I use the living room. That's my only chance because there is one lighting source. There is a window. So under the lighting source, there's a couch. Okay, so the space is limited. It's the couch at a certain time of the day because I need the natural light. And at that point, we schedule it based on their needs and my needs. And then the conversation takes place. How does it take place? I need to tell them, okay, today is the day where we need to film something where you talk about race. Okay. So I trigger, I kickstart a conversation. How is that going to look like? I don't know. We have 3 hours. Relax. We find, they lay down. They choose that they lay down. They choose to lay down on the couch, and we film. And at some point, I tell them it'd be great, if it emerges, and that's my hope today. We get to talk about race, and that's it. That's all I have to say. So this is the way I put my limitations to my process of observation. I structure it. And that happens. And in order to capture the moment, it takes about, that's a 2-hour filming process. I don't cut my takes. Every take, the memory, in this case, with this camera, which is an Arri Amira, because of the format we used, the resolution we used, I could capture 19 minutes each card. We don't cut, meaning where the camera, where the card is full, we just put another one, clap, and keep on filming, and we go on until we fill the cards. And why do I do that? Because, and that again goes back to the concept of documentary, because I know, based on my experience now, I know that people inevitably will perform. A camera is on, and it's a few inches or a few feet from them, from the characters, and characters need to perform because it's extremely intimidating to be in front of a camera. So performance kicks in. What does that mean? Again, very self-awareness about the body movements, and also the content, what they say, what they're gonna say. And I need to film them. This is like a boxing match. I mean, that performance is a very much needed defense mechanism. So the guard is up, and they need that, and I allowed that. I welcome that. I welcome performance. They need the guard up, and but at some point, like in a boxing match, if the shoot lasts a long time, you can't keep the guard up all the time. So the guard lowers, and that moment of unfiltered truth emerges, and I'm confident that in the end I always capture it, and sometimes it doesn't happen, but when it does, moments like this, this is the gift of that process for me. Moments like this, when all of a sudden, after playing and being quiet or talking about something else because the kids, and then all of a sudden something triggers that conversation, that awareness, the moment of intensity, and Ronaldo talks to Titus about race and skin color, and that's the magic of the process. Does this make it a documentary? Does it make it a fiction? What is this? Is this hybrid? Again, that is my interest towards those labels and is extremely limited.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, there are fiction filmmakers who work in the same way, so it's not a
exactly.
endemic to fiction or documentary.
For me, the main difference is that whatever they say, they gather it from their experience, their truth, and that makes it a document, for sure, a testament of truth. But that's really how I approach it. When I say I make documentaries, it doesn't even matter. Like you said, a documentary of fiction, this is how I approach a shoot. I just need to, put limitations of, in terms of space and time, and then let it roll and see what happens.
But do you have a sense that at the end of this process, while you're shooting this long scene, is there a point where they become less aware of you, or are they always conscious of the fact that they're acting? Because you mentioned that they start off performing, and then by the end, maybe the performance has let down a bit, or their guard has let down. But is it for you, is the importance becoming invisible? Because this is kind of one of the taglines of the conversation was, your powers of invisibility. But maybe in the end you don't. It's not what the point is.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm coming to this conclusion that I think it's kind of rather the opposite. I think it's my presence is not only is it noticeable, but it's actually a huge component of it. My presence is the reason why these things happen. My presence is part of I am a defense mechanism. I am a mirror for them. I am the safety. I am the strong. I have a partner in crime. I am the one who grants them the immunity of of a long-lasting, testimony. What they say, I'm the one who's going to film it. I'm the one who's going to bring it to the Netherlands. I'm the one who just give them, iconizes them. I'm the one who is going to. I got their back. I'm here talking about them, and I'm here sharing their truth and even translating it in languages and putting it, explaining it. So I am actually extremely present, even in the shoot. I think. I'm actually not going for invisibility at all. I'm going for presence. I'm going for almost, sharing a space. There's something very enmeshment. I'm going for enmeshment. I'm a part of this. I mean, if this happens, it's because we're there. We're close because we have a common intent. When sometimes I work counterintuitively in different ways too. Like if the moment is so special, so important, that is the moment where I shut down the camera. Because that is the moment where we're going to experience it together. There is moments with the Panthers. We were at the house of some victims, so people who lost their children, to police violence, and the moment was so intense that's when I say, guys, this is so powerful that we must not film it. We must experience it. We must bond with them. And there is something, the quid pro quo. There is like being together, enmeshed. Sometimes we need to live in a completely different way, and then we spend the afternoon together, and that will affect the way we will film in the future. So I work counterintuitively. I don't film some moments that are extremely powerful. That's when I shut down the camera, and I make sure that I'm not invisible. I make sure that I'm there. I make sure that in the highest peaks of this performance, that I'm there. I can be visible. Don't forget that I'm here. Keep going. I got you back. I'm gonna fight for you. I'm winning it together. So I'm here. Look, I'm changing the way. Now I'm gonna shoot you from very close because I'm here, and you can keep rolling. I'm gonna fight for you. That is very emphatically. I understand. I'm aware of my emphatic way of speaking here, but this is really what happens. It's emphasizing my presence and committing to them to the point that I'm not gonna film moments that sometimes should be filmed for who, for the success of my film, but that is extremely relative. I can't focus on that. It cannot be filmed because they need to be experienced. So that's really how I operate.
But is the process of with the kids, for example, how is it different shooting with the kids than shooting with Judy? Do you need to build more of intimacy? Do you have to spend much more time with them? And why did you want to shoot with kids in this film?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is all. Everything I said, obviously changes, varies based on the characters. Age is a big component. Personality is another one. It changes with Judy. There was less of I had less control over the process. And Judy, as I said, Judy was in the driver's seat. And sometimes I need to follow her, and that means I lose control over time. I lose control over space. The aesthetics get out of whack sometimes, and that is fine. And then I intervene after the fact. I intervene when I edit. Yeah, so it's different for every character, and obviously kids are a very delicate object. Especially in this case where the mother has such a strong presence, and there's a series rules that they need to follow every day, where to go, where not to go, and it's a very mother is very strict for their own safety. So I need to I work with what I had, and sometimes I don't know. It's hard to. Again, there is a lot of me in this. There is my own prejudice, but also my own views. I'm a father, so I tend to. And when I talk about enmeshment, is also there. I tend to treat the kids as if they were my kids. So I'm not a disciplinarian. Therefore, I cannot discipline those kids. I cannot really tell them what to do. I'm very careful about the repercussions of everything I say onto them. I care, whatever I do, I know it affects them inevitably. So, there is a lot of me. It's not something, very objective. It's not objective. It's extremely subjective. So for me, I have a tendency to get really intimate, to get really enmeshed, to get overly emotional, overprotective. Which might make me I'm a melodramatic. I'm still Italian. I'm all of that. I laugh and I cry, all that. So, yeah. And why kids? Well, the film, the film's about generations of people. It's a film of, it's generations. Gender roles, obviously the female figure in this film is extremely, important, and the kids gave me that perspective, especially from the kids are boys. So this is a society, Black America, where 33% of men at some point in their life are incarcerated. So you find a lot of families where the woman has to carry the burden of raising kids, going to work, and so you find the strong figures, they walk with the chin up and teach their kids to always look at people with the chin up, which is very, very intimidating for me, which, I take for granted.
Did you have a strong mother?
Yes. She's very short, very strong. She's also, she's very intimidating. But then, it made a rebel out of me, so because that's the side effect of having a strong mom. And then all of a sudden, I look outside of of the house, and I want to hustle and yeah. But I did have a strong mother, and and a strong mother. Yeah, it empowered me. You see, but my mom was really good, strong to the point that she's too much. I mean, I remember when I was little, she would just, somebody honks at her in the car, she would jump out of the car and put the face like this and beat you up. She's 4'11". So it's a little too much, but then again, I said in the beginning that, for me, film is a way of, looking, finding myself, self-expression through, relating with people. And yes, these women remind me of my mom. It is no coincidence that in the end, in this film, there's always elements that are very human elements. Also, there's a socioeconomic layer, but and the ideological, they resonate. They're very familiar. Some of these women, they're just they're so strong that they remind me of my mom. So always look forward to relate. Yeah, my mom.
All right, let's go to the third clip, which features, I'm not sure if the strong woman is so apparent here, but there's a strong woman involved here as well, who's running the new Black Panther Party.
Just about to start. Just about to start. Just about to start.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power, Alton Sterling.
Black power. Alton Sterling.
We're not gonna forget. We're not gonna forget you. We're gonna get justice. We're gonna get it win.
Now.
We're gonna get it win. 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 Black power.
Black power.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Black power.
Keep it going, y'all. Keep it going. All power to the people. All power to the people. Justice. 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 Now. Justice. Now. Black power. Black power. Black power. Black power. Justice.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of her at the end there, but Crystal Muhammad. So you talked about working with Judy and with the kids, and working with the Black Panthers must have been an entirely different experience. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a way which this is actually kind of interesting in how each sort of section of this film required a completely different approach to dealing with the personality.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why I emphasize the obvious, which is, it's very important for me as a director, as a filmmaker, to sit in the passenger seat, because that puts me in the situation, in the frame of mind, the mindset where I allow people to sit, different drivers to sit, and they go at different speeds, and they have their different driving style. Some of them, they're reckless, and they put my life in danger, and some others, very steady. And but it's very important that I'm aware of the fact that I'm going to be in the driver's seat, because if I sit over there in the passenger seat, because as soon as sitting in the driver's seat would be, to force a situation and to make a film that is more of a expression of myself. As I said, I already have a tendency to look for self-expression. So if I sat in the driver's seat, the film will be an expression of myself, and then it becomes a manifesto, and then becomes my ideology, and then it becomes my viewpoint on, in this case, on this race in America, and then it becomes a judgmental piece of work, which I tried not to do. Therefore, I let these people in, and then Crystal was in the driver's seat at some point, and Crystal is the one who puts my life in danger because she drives fast and go through very unpaved roads. So when I met the Panthers, the way I met the Panthers is completely different than everything I've done in the past, and anything I've done in the past, because I just simply send them an email through the website. And then I got so it was a very formal introduction. Where I put my ideology, my resume, before even the human encounter. It was really odd, right? Make an introduction. I don't even write proper film proposals for funding, and then all of a sudden here I am sending a formal introduction of the self and the project to a potential character of the film. That was really odd. And then I got a reply with a phone number. So I called, and I was clearly, because of the echo, I was in a speakerphone, and I assumed there's a lot of Panthers there listening, which was true, ended up being true. So I was really very nervous, and when I'm very nervous, I talk a lot, and then and my Italian accent takes over. So they were kind of intrigued, like who's this guy? We need to meet this guy. This guy talks Italy, Marxism, and this, and fighting, and then my mom, and punching here and there. Who's this guy? So we met. And we met at a bar where I went there, and there were 5 Panthers, and then the bar closes down, and they close the door, and the Panther raises his fist and says Black Power, and for Walter Sterling, he was probably 6'5", so stands in front of the door, and they sit in front of me, and I'm extremely intimidated, and that's 2 hours of questioning me. And so they took over the process of really creating, a bonding. They created it, they led it, and they knew. So everything I said about the character it's really interesting for me, because then all of a sudden my method is what that's the rebound effect, and all of a sudden they are talking to me for 2 hours, knowing that I might perform because I won't persuade them, but knowing that at some point I'll lower my guard, and they'll see what the truth in me, and I knew that, and that worked, because it's true. At some point, we went through all this. I could talk politics and all that, but at some point they wanted something else, the essence, the truth. And as soon as they got it from me, with the ideological self and the human self, combined, they grasp it, and they say, okay, this guy we can work with him. And
but why do you think they agreed? Did they ultimately you're giving them a platform, right?
Yeah, the platform for sure. But after I got to meet them and after spending so much months and months and months together, I got to see their emails, and French TV, Italian national television. A lot of people wanted to work on document them, but they always said no. So Christo Mohammed, the woman, the leader, national chair of the party, said that in the end the decision was spiritual, and that's really what I'm talking about. In the end, there's the moment, the essence, the truth that makes her feel that like a filmmaker. When I say I got it, this is the essence, and the same. I say, okay, this guy, we can work with this guy. She said the decision is spiritual. Having said that, after they said that we could work together, I said no to them, because I really didn't want to step into the dark side. Also, I knew that I got too scared. I got really too scared. So I said, no, I'm not going to do it. We're going to get arrested. I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to go to jail and be somebody's girlfriend, and I got beat up and all that. And I'm being honest, that's really my concern. Like, I'm going to get, And then I thought, as usual, fear is a strong ally of me as a filmmaker, but not only as a filmmaker, because fear is the biggest gift that I've always received in life, to be so scared and to have an opportunity. Fear is always presents, again, in the comfort of my paved road that I walk, and then all of a sudden fear comes in the shape of a crossroad, because fear really is fight or flight all the time, pretty much. And it's the beauty of fear is that it gives me, finally, I have a choice to make. And in this case, the fear was so strong that I thought maybe there's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot there to discover, because there's so much fear. That probably means that there's something I need to pursue, walk through. And so I did. And man, it was scary. I was right. It was really scary, but.
Well, you're right, and we see in the film, there's a scene, not to ruin the film, but there's a scene where, the police arrest the Black Panthers. So obviously your fears came true, but at the same point when you're shooting that scene, you must also have this feeling like, okay, I mean, this is a scene that, you know, I need in the film. Or finally, you know, you must have been waiting for that moment if you knew it was going to come.
Look, I really want to say yes to you. I know it looks so cool, but I dreaded the moment. I've never wanted that to happen.
But you knew it was going to happen, though.
I feared it was going to happen. Yes, so I feared something's going to happen here. And that day we went and Crystal is so strong and her words is so unfiltered that I said, something's going to happen one day. But it wasn't the first time. For those who have seen the film, there's a moment where they patrol a neighborhood where two people have been lynched. We talk about one that was decapitated. By the way, I got picture of the head, and that's when we went to do investigation on the case. Somebody sent me a picture on my phone of the head in front of the house. But then we found that 2 days before, another guy was lynched, hanged with the hands tied in the house. Both cases were ruled a suicide by the police, because suicides don't make the national news. So that's how you shut down cases and you keep, things quiet institutionally about the slaughtering of black people in America. So there's been moments, when they patrol the neighborhood with the AR-15s, and then all of a sudden, so I'm there and they take out the AR-15s, and I'm thinking, we are 2 kilometers, so 1.5 miles from the police station, and if the police comes here, they're gonna slaughter us.
This is Mississippi, right?
That's Jackson, Mississippi. So city is a ghost town of 80% black people who live in fear inside their homes, and all of a sudden, the police patrols the areas, and if they come here, there's Panthers with an AR-15. The police, they are authorized to open fire in a situation like that. And those are the situations. Yeah, so it was really scary. I really don't want to go through those things, and I knew something could happen. I really didn't want to, and I thought maybe perhaps my crew members would die, not me, so everything would be fine. And that's what I did when we filmed the scene. I threw myself on the ground, hoping that somebody else would get shot instead of me. It's the truth. It's the truth. So that scene, I was on the ground, hyperventilating, and then there was a Belgian friend who had fallen, and he kept on standing up and falling. I was like, he got shot. And he's dying, like platoon style, falling. But he was just so scared that he kept on falling. So that scene, I directed it from the safety of a big oak tree, poking out with my head, and while Diego, who should be credited for the scene, was filming. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, there you go. So, but that's the point. That's, again, it's because that is my relationship that sometimes is antagonistic, sometimes it's symbiotic with fear. And the fear is always there. Fear makes me fight or flight, and sometimes I fly and run away. Sometimes I'm there fighting. But I always feared that something would happen with the Panthers. I never wanted it to happen, and it did. And sometimes my crew members stepped up and took over for me. But that's why I'm not a one-man show. That's why I would never make a film alone, even a documentary. I just cannot do it. I cannot do it because this is a case of fear, but there's also love, and there is also love and hate, diatribe. Sometimes I am a guy of strong emotions, and sometimes I connect, sometimes I disconnect from people. And when I disconnect, I really disconnect. I reject people. And there's always somebody else who's able to connect. And so the film is a collective effort just because of that, because there's always people from my crew, from Diego Romero, who's the cinematographer, to Carlos Corral, who is the second, no, Carlos is the first, but Cameron is the second assistant camera. There's always some of them who connect, and they're up to the task when I'm not, and vice versa. And there is a reason why sometimes I quit the shoot, and I say, guys, I'm not up to par today, I just can't do it. And I'm staying home, or I'm staying far away, be it behind an oak tree for fear, or at home for anger. and then people got my back, and vice versa. Sometimes I tell Diego or other people, you just go home, do something else, go to the beach, I'll take over. Because you're not feeling it, and I am, and that's very important too. Because it's unrealistic to think that I could. If I talk about connecting, if I talk about catharsis, if I talk about symbiosis, if I talk about self-expression, then I cannot do it all alone. It would be unrealistic. At least this is how I see it, and this is how I do it. I need people. I need people in the driver's seat. I need people with me that got my back. I cannot do it alone, and and there's nothing I could do alone in life, really.
You did one other person maybe you could talk a bit about who works in the film is the editor of the film, because I'm curious. You capture all this footage, which, as you said, is over 100 hours. I don't know how many is exactly for this film. And in the film, we have, I guess, essentially four strands. There's also, we didn't talk about the Indians, who are maybe a less. I assume at some point somebody decided, maybe it was the editor, decided it would be a smaller part of the film. And maybe there were also other strands of people that you shot that didn't make it into the film. So I'm wondering what your process of editing the film is like, how your give and take with your editor, and how much closely you work with her, and how much she suggests to you. And is she another one of these people who sort of has your back?
Yes, Marie-Hélène, she work. I only work with her on all my films, and I shot 150 hours of footage, and the way it works is I know when and where the project starts, and I don't know when and where it will end. So at some point, I don't review footage ever during the shoot. Because I don't want to be, because if I review footage, such footage will inform what I'm going to do, my vision of the project, and how and what I'm going to do next and how. So I categorically never even review a single clip. And I take advantage of my very bad memory as well, so I get lost at some point. Like, what am I doing? What am I really doing here? Do I have the footage? Judy, is it really? Do we shoot, Do we have the laughing? Do we have the crying here? How are we going to edit it? Fine. Then I let go of the project again, being in the passenger seat. Fine. Look, I have no clue. I know I've done it 5 times already, so everything will be fine. Trust the process. So at some point after I shot, I send all the material to Marie-Hélène, and I don't review the footage. I write notes to Marie. I think this is what we're doing. I think this is what the story is. I do feel that Judy can be this kind of character in the film, and I do see that there is these other figures, and perhaps they would dance together. I know that stories will never intertwine, because I never shot points of convergence, really, or them being together on camera. And I think this is what can happen. And I tell her that this is how it could begin, this is how it could end. The Indians, what do we do? Questions, I ask. And then I'll see you in a month or two. And usually she comes back with an idea, some selections of her own vision of the story. And that's when I watch the footage. And then all of a sudden memory comes back. And so this dialogue with Marie-Hélène begins. She has her own idea now. She's attached to the story and the footage, and I am attached to the story and the footage, so we're even. We're at the starting point. We have the same knowledge in a way. So we're even, so there's a lot of her in the film. I do that, I repeat, because I cannot do it alone, because it's very important for me that people bring their own selves into the project. I'm very wary of my own limitation. And so that's how we work. And then it takes months, and we always do it in the settings of a house. Usually it's her home, or in this case, my house in Texas. And it's nice because I've seen, we've been together, working together for more than 10 years. So, there's been divorces, there's been deaths and births. And so also our lives informs the process, which is very beautiful. So although they enriches the emotional realm of the project. It's very emotional to make this film because people have their own stuff going on. So that's how we work with Marie. Marie is a huge component of the film, because she is extremely involved, and I let her be involved, sometimes completely lead me, and sometimes I took over and all that. So it's very beautiful, very collaborative.
All right, we have about 25 minutes left, so if there are questions, we can open it up now. I have more. If there aren't, there's yes. Just wait a second, we have a microphone, and when you get the mic, if you also stand up because we're filming this. So there's somebody in the middle there, just in case you didn't know you're being filmed right now.
Thank you. So sorry. You put a lot of emphasis on self-expression, but you also put a lot of emphasis on being in the passenger seat, letting others do the work for you. And I wonder how it is satisfactory to see a film be made by others, although you really want to express yourself.
True. Self-expression in relation to, self-expression for me is a connection. Because I exist, I see myself, my people, relationships I have a mirror for myself, parts of me, parts I like, I don't like, what I long to be. And so self-expression is that in relation to other people. And that's why I need people to express themselves. And I try not to be abstract here, but allow me to say in this way, more psychoanalytical way. So there is, we mirror of each other. We have a space, a safe space where we can be who we are and we relate. And through relation, to be relational, I find myself. So that's the concept of self-expression. I need people to be up to the task, to want to relate with me, so that I can express myself and be who I am. In a way, this is one of those moments where, I exist, I am, this is what's happening, what's emerging of me. It's only because I'm interacting. And things will get much deeper if y'all interact with me. So that's really how the process is, and how satisfactory it is. Well, extremely, because for me that is the blessing of the project. That is the blessing. Is the fact that it's so, so full of. The project is an expression of the dialectics, the relationship that I have with people, which is long-lasting or very short-lived if it doesn't work. There's no difference between human relations, be them sentimental, based on friendship, that they can, be very short-lived. I cut ties quickly if things don't work, or they're long-lasting. And so that transcends cinema. And, if this emotional, human, relational realm is so big, it's very, very big, then chances are that the film, will absorb a lot of that. Chances are that the film will be very, very alive, filled with emotions, with intimacy, with care. So I do care a lot about expanding that realm. It is very, very satisfactory to do that. And that is for me, also, I put myself in place. So that is the end result of the self-expression. I could be who I was. I am who I am perfectly, and this is what happened because of my openness. And the film is alive, this as a heartbeat because of that. It depends, right? It can be, for some people, it might be flat out, dead, no heartbeat at all. But I feel, there's a lot of the heartbeat of the people who worked on the film in the film.
Someone else? Yes, over there.
You said that You said that you make movies to make hands meet, right? So how do you look upon a group like the Black Panthers? Do they have the same goal?
So I actually said that all my life has been trying to make ends meet. If I wish films would be like films is where I just go bankrupt, but I do. That's why I say I build eco-friendly homes. Films. I almost feel sorry you guys. Most of y'all had to pay for this stuff. Usually, nobody gives me a penny for this. Definitely these are not box office smash hits. I get paid. My salary, my money is in the budget. Luckily, but yeah, it's really not how I make ends meet and send my kids to school and one day to college. The Panthers had the same goal? No. No, I don't think so. everybody, perhaps like me, everybody has their way. The Panthers have their way to make ends meet. Some of them have jobs, and some of them are temporary, flexible enough so that they can continue their militancy and activism. But the goal for them, like for everybody else, is really to have a platform. The platform for the Panthers even more so, because the platform is political. To have a platform so in a way the profit is there. This project, a film like this is very profitable in terms of visibility, not money. Even for me, it gives me a lot of visibility and opportunity to talk and be taken seriously about what I do. And the same for them. Money, man, ain't coming with this kind of cinema, but it's so good.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Yep.
Thanks for a very strong close-up on black community. Talking about the money, then I was thinking about the audience. Who is going to see your film? Or what do you do to get it out? Because I guess it will not be on primetime TV in the States, the people who really should see it.
So, this film, luckily, is found more, at least in terms of distribution deals. This film is the one who's getting the most distribution deals out of all my films. I think that is a consequence of the fact that myself as a name, I'm more established, or the fact that, and also the fact that the film, perhaps touches a topic that interests a lot of people. So the film will be distributed in America in July. It's distributed in several countries, which is a nice, pleasant surprise. The audience is different. Until now, what I found is that the film is more distributed, but the film is bringing less people to the cinemas. Less public is watching this film than my other films. I think this film is. I don't know exactly why. Well, I do know. I mean, there's a reason why there aren't many films about black people speaking up in America, because people just don't want to hear them historically. That is Ta-Nehisi Coates says that, right? The writer, for those who have read him, this is a prominent voice of Black America today, that said that then yes, white people, white society, white people in power, they're not really, people think that the reason why people are scared of black people is because media portray them as dangerous people, the thugs, the gangster. But no, the truth is that the white America has made they made them unwatchable, simply non-credible. So they took the credibility out of them, out of the voice. And that's the damage that has been done to Black America, that they are not just voiceless, but just simply untrustworthy as people, as communities. And that's, I think, what's happening. I mean, it's hard to go since audiences are mostly white everywhere, because cinema, you have to pay for it and to go to the movies, and that's the point, to be listened to. I mean, the black people, like the people in my film, and especially the Panthers, are easily dismissible. They are guilty until proven innocent. They're probably exaggerating, but let's say so. So then they rarely have been given a chance. And that's, I think, what's happening with the film. The film is gaining at a high in the upper echelons of society, where even distributors and cinephiles reside. The film is gaining a lot of traction. People want to put it out there. People want to talk about it. But then the audience is skeptical. The skeptical about going for 2 hours to listen to black people whine about their situation. Or the other ones being so passé, talking about justice, talking about equality. We already have equality, meaning lesser inequality. That's a new standard in America, lesser inequality equals equality, right? The tolerating minorities is equality today, which is extremely dangerous and fallacious and perverted. So yeah, that's what happens with the film. I think it's hard to bring people, to watch this film. I think it angers me a great deal, but not towards audiences. It angers me because, because that's a situation we're in. It angers me because black people are really not trustworthy. And it's a situation to be angry about, I think.
Anyone else?
Yes, here.
Got it.
I have a short question. Yeah, I have a mic already. You're discovering the topics during filming, as it seems, and also you said you give your editor like little notes about who could become the leading character, who could become this. And I'm curious, how do you work with this uncertainty, like while writing and while filming? Do you just give yourself enough space, or also the actors to sort of become the leading role, or like how is this jungle sort of solving up during filming? Because it feels like you have to have a certain vision, of course, that's like applicable to the surrounding you're filming in. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious about that.
I mean, I always have a vision, a feeling, a feel for things. Call it vision might be a stretch, but I do have some sort of course. Otherwise, I really would be. I mean, if there's something I can do, something I'm useful at, it's at least having a little bit of a vision. Otherwise, I'd be extremely disposable in all this process. So I do have something, a vision, an idea, a little bit of a clue what I'm doing, what's going on before my eyes. Having said that, everything else is pretty uncertain. How do I deal with it? Emotionally, I suffer. I struggle. The feeling of, the fear of failure and feelings of ineptitude, so judgments kick in. But uncertainty, what happens when I live in a situation of uncertainty, not only in film, but definitely in film, is that then I operate with a stronger sense of urgency. Because all of a sudden, inevitably I try to control uncertainty. I can't do it with writing because I don't write. I can't do it conventionally because I don't review footage. I don't write. I don't know who's going to be the lead character or anything else. I do have a vision. So all of a sudden, the defense mechanism kicks in, and it's the sense of urgency. So whatever I film it with the utmost attention and care. And that is the fearlessness of the project. Although I make a fool of myself by saying that I'm scared, which is true, but at the same time there is something very, very brave about wanting to be there despite the fear, because it must be filmed. It must be. So that sense of everything that I do must be done for a bigger reason. And that is the sense of urgency that is induced by and informed by that uncertainty. If I have everything under control, I think, at least in my own way of doing math, in the equation, if everything is under control, the other factor that loses importance is the sense of urgency. At the urgency that something must be done. That is already defined by everything that was under control. So in the chaos, that is the way I make films. The one thing that is paramount is to operate with a sense of urgency. And that makes us brave, heroic, and extremely, and I emphasize extremely focused. My focus is pinpoint when I film. I am sharp as a razor. I just don't even, I do this without breathing. I operate the camera. I just, I injure myself by operating the camera because I didn't, the concentration was so much that I didn't even feel that I was, injuring myself, my back, and everything is heightened. The sense of urgency heightens everything, and I'm extremely focused. So that's how I compensate with the lack of control, with the extreme sense of urgency, and that's why I can stand in front of people shooting, and that wasn't the only time they shot us at, or some other moments. Or in the past, there's been deaths that I filmed. There's been bird scenes, and because there is a sense of urgency, all of a sudden, being a filmmaker, making the film becomes a mission, something bigger, which again, somewhat rhetorical, melodramatic, somewhat nostalgic, but it's the truth. I operate with a strong sense of urgency.
What else? Yeah, right over there.
I was wondering if it was purely an aesthetic choice to do the film in black and white, or is there perhaps a hidden meaning towards black and white people?
Yeah, there is. I always wanted to make this film in black and white for two reasons. One is more conceptual, although simple, which is I wanted to tie this film into the iconography of the 60s, of the equal rights movements, just because some of the most important, when black people were taken seriously, were trustworthy. There's been a point in time where black America was trustworthy. You could trust what they said. You could believe what they said, and that was the equal rights movement. Thanks to Dr. King, Malcolm X, and some of the other voices of the movement, and later on the Panthers to a certain degree. So there is a tying this imagery to the iconography of those years would, in a way, give them credibility as well. And the other reason is practical. The reason of a filmmaker, that I'm filming in different places with different people at different times, since it took me more than a year to make this film, with little control over conditions like lighting or colors. And therefore, I wanted to flatten all those differences out, to even it out. And black and white gave me a chance. The shades of gray gave me a chance to control the imagery and make this film move, smoothly, jump smoothly from a scene to another, from a context to another. So those were important. And then there's something more ideological. Maybe we don't have a lot of time here, so just it was all about color. Color also, the differences in color. Color is the beauty of color is a white European concept. So I really didn't want to create a hierarchy of beauty here based on color, which is a very supremacist idea, right? So I'm making differences among communities of black people based on a white supremacist concept, which is the beauty of color. So the banders dressed in black will be at the bottom of the ladder. So I really wanted to avoid that. But then again, I'll leave it at that. I mean, right, to spend a lot of time talking about that.
I'm guessing you shot in color, though, right?
Yes,
it's
I never...
color correction. So did you watch any of the footage in color, too? Or
no.
You edited it all in black and white?
So, yeah, obviously, I watch in black and white from the monitor because I don't review the footage, but I have a monitor. Not a monitor, like on camera, though. I don't sit anywhere. I'm just there. So I watch in black and white, but we do record it in colors because of the information necessary to better to range to do color correction. No, I never watched it in color except we were done with color correction. We were in Berlin. And we were done, and I stand up, okay, we're done, and then all of a sudden, Isabelle Julien, my colorist, she's brilliant, by the way, but all of a sudden, she looks at the scene of the Indians in color, and I stand up and say, well, what's that? Colors were out of whack. It was like Etachrome on ecstasy, and can you play a little bit? And she played a little bit, and I sat down again, and I said, what if we... And they said, you stop right there. Stop right there. Say, can you at least save all this, the curve, those loots that you use, all those stuff? Can you please save for the next film? This is beautiful. So I did get a glimpse, but that is exactly what I'm talking about. As soon as I have information, that information will inevitably affect every other decision. And that's why I don't review footage, because if I did that, had I done that during the shoot, I had these visions. I must shoot black and white. And then all of a sudden I see a clip like that, Ectochrome on ecstasy or steroids, and then all of a sudden I want to shoot color. And then all of a sudden I am trapped into that concept of beauty or color, which is white supremacist. It has nothing to do with them. That is the very thing that I wanted to avoid. And that's why I'm fallacious, I'm limited, I'm prejudiced, and I must limit, I must be very careful with what I do, whatever I touch. And that's why I don't review footage. Because inevitably I fall into a trap of, wanting to control the process. I'm looking at you all the time, I don't know why, but
I think we have time for one more, if somebody has one. Right in the middle there. Sorry. Second row.
You spend a lot of time with people in the film. And I wondered, did they like the film and what were their comments? And how important this is for you?
Yeah, thanks for the question, especially the last part, because it's very important, because, I try to stay, true. I try to, whatever I do, I try to do with some integrity. So if this is a collective process, if this is a platform, if we all strive for self-expression, if we all got our back, then they need to be the characters. They need to have a say in the whole process. So obviously that happens every time we shoot, during the shoot, but it happens after we shot, when they review the film. They watch the film, and we talk about it before locking picture, But because of the bonding that is created, I do have a feel for what's right or what's wrong to show. So there's a lot of stuff that is not in the film that might have had a value for me as a filmmaker. Would have satisfied the curiosity and the voyeuristic curiosity sometimes of audiences, it's juicy stuff, but that is just not right to be. They wouldn't pay justice to them. Yet it always happened in the films. There's always something that is not right for them. If taken out of context, it would distort the perception of them and their truth, but it had a high filmic value. And I had to sacrifice that if I want to stay true to this project. So yes, they watch it, they were very happy. All of them are very happy and very honored and very proud of this film. All of them participated in Q&As and traveled on my behalf. The Panthers were at the New York Film Festival, so everybody had an opportunity to speak as well.
I think we've got to wrap it up. I have one more question for you. You can answer this as briefly as possible. We didn't really talk about politics, but I want your opinion. Do you think Trump is going to build the wall?
I don't know. It's hard. I think in a way I want to say yes. I don't know, because the point is, Trump, whatever he does, I mean, everybody knows that. You all know that. Whatever he says and does, it's just not only propagandistic, but it's part of an agenda. The agenda is only focused to being re-elected, gaining power, and all of that. It's win or lose. It's just a game for him. And the wall, this thing that makes no sense, but the wall is really the only tangible result of his success. And I think at some point he has to build it. He has to build it to win, and he wants to win in 2020. So maybe a mini wall somewhere, some little piece, but he will do something, especially because he might declare national emergency, probably spend a few bucks on some wall. I mean, it's something. He will do something enough to strengthen his base, the electorate, and maybe gain some other points with somebody else. So I'm afraid they'll build some walls, something. It just makes some sense. It will live in America is we're living we live in a time where Trump, the biggest damage apart from the judicial system, where he replaced a lot of judges, 99 until now, 2 in the Supreme Court. So he changes the face of America, the judicial system, but also he changed the concept of truth, how flexible, how the truth has become, the idea of truth in politics has become, and that's really damaging. That's really damaging, and obviously, since we said that people like Black Americans, they're already not granted the benefit of the doubt, they're looked at suspicion. For them, for them it's even more damaging, because they'll never be. They'd be looked at with suspicion all the time. So we're living in hard times with the wall. Yes, the wall. I think so. A little bit of wall.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you all for coming and staying.
Thank you.
And we did it. 33 seconds.
Thank you.